it's not until it's already unfolded that you realize, like, oh, well, that door had to close so that I could even look at this other door that just magically opened up. And it's like, rather than remembering that, though, the next time that a door closes, you totally forget that lesson. And then you go through it and you struggle through it again. And then, you've got the anxiety and the worry and all that. And then 10 years later after that, then you have like another revelation. You're like, yeah, that wasn't so bad. It's like there are these like spiritual lessons that we continue to forget in the moment. We get lost. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's just part of this journey, man. It's like, as the Bible would call it, the furnaces of affliction. you
Yeah,
know
I
that's what
agree.
this is.
It's definitely reshaping you. It reshapes your entire being. And are you gonna be able to survive that fire? Or are you gonna burn out? And it's like,
Yep.
what isn't? Well, shit, yo. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna count down five, four, three, two, one, and then just we'll be waiting for 2 minutes and you'll see on the link why it's just gonna be a green ball going with some dubstep, and then we'll come in. I'll do a little intro, and I guess I'm gonna start it off well, what would be the first thing you would really like to get out to the world? Because I'd love to bring up future technologies, but we don't have to start off with that.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that. I'd really, what I'd like to do is, if we could, we could explain like some of the background, or just, kind of just talk about, transhumanism, and I don't know, basically how it's all tied together, like how it seems as though it's just kind of happening happenstance, but how there's kind of an agenda.
Programming, yeah, with
I mean, the
commercials.
the hard part, I guess, about that is, like, there's so many hours that one would have to really uh, go into, like, a deep dive of transhumanism, the term, and who came up with it, and the end goals of it, and who the players are. But I mean, we could at least kind of talk about some of the technology stuff, and like, the have you ever seen Black Mirror?
Yes,
I've not seen it, but I've heard about the episode with, like, the robot dogs or whatever they are.
I didn't see it. That's the thing I know of the show, but I've seen like 2 episodes.
Um, but yeah, we've got those now. Like, those actually exist. There's like these robot dogs, and I think it was in Hawaii, maybe. I can't remember where. I'm gonna get on my phone and look it up, but somewhere like, I think it was in Honolulu or somewhere, and they had bought a bunch of them to, like, I guess, help with. I think they said they're helping with the homeless or something, but
Hmm. Well, that's
uh,
man. When it comes to some of, I don't know. Some of it can be totally good. Some of it's a little sus. To be honest.
yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, technology is like a sword, in the fact that it can cut both ways, just like words are like a sword. It can cut both ways. Like, it
Yeah.
can be good or evil. But I think that, the people that are actually
Dude.
calling the shots they they like hold a carrot out to you, and they're like, yeah, with this technology, it's going to make your life so much better. And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, I want that. I want that carrot.
But it's
And
more
then
of a control. Yeah.
yeah, and then, it's like a Repo Man situation. You ever seen that movie with who the fuck is in that? Dude from AI, Gigolo Joe. What do you know? What the fuck? English guy. Can't remember his name, but he's like a repo man, and it's got Forrest Whitaker, and they go around, and, like, when people can't pay their rent payments, that on their organs that are saving their
Yeah.
lives, they go and they fucking take them out of their bodies.
Yeah. I heard of that
You know?
movie. That's
Yeah, so it's like, who's to say that they're not going to offer that to us, but then just poison us to the level that our actual organs fail, because obviously they're poisoning everything, the food, the water, and then they offer this solution of, like, oh, well, we have these artificial hearts that you can rent from us, so that they could keep you on the dole for, however long.
yeah. No, I love
Like,
that. Yeah, dude.
you're
I'm gonna
So
put
yeah, like that's some shit we could talk about.
yeah, I know. I'm gonna put future technologies and programming because that's what it is. It's programming that they're trying to program us to be okay with shit. I just saw something on Halo, which is that exact thing, man. Shit. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna start this up, and in like 2 minutes, I'll say something, and then we'll start it up, man.
All right.
All right. Alrighty, everybody. Hopefully everyone is doing awesome. Bam, bam. Shazam. Oh no, I deleted my face. That's alright. What's going on, everybody? Here we go. We are live up in here with the wolf. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How you been?
I've been really good, man. Really good. Since last time we talked, man, the world just seems like the world, everything that's going on is there's so much in such a little bit of time. And also how quick everything seems to be going. I mean, even from 2019 to now feels like a millennium ago, but yet it got here so gosh dang quick. So it's been crazy.
Yeah. Well, this researcher that I used to listen to named Alan Watt. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Alan
He's
Watts, yeah.
deceased. Well, Watt, no
Oh,
S.
oh,
The S was that guy lived in like the six or he died in like the 60s or 70s or something. But Alan Watt was also a Scottish guy, but he always used to talk about Carol Quigley, who wrote a book called Tragedy and Hope, and he was Bill Clinton's mentor, and
wow.
he was a big cat with the CFR, and so he like he was involved with a lot of the shady stuff and knew about it. He was like I think he was their historian, and he said that you could get more accomplished in 5 years of war from a social agenda standpoint than you could in 50 years of peace.
Wow.
So, and we've had a war on COVID, just like we've had like wars on drugs and wars on terror. And it's through the guise of that they bring in all this other stuff, to take
Yeah,
our
take your
our
rights
civil
away.
yeah, exactly. And of course, when you have a threat, whether it be from within or without, people are really willing to give all that up for safety, which we all know that. And of course, this quote from Franklin, I've heard people say that it's not actually accurate, but to my knowledge, he said, those who would trade their essential liberty for our temporary security deserve neither, or something like our temporary safety deserve neither.
Mm,
And that's a truism, regardless of who said it.
yeah, I agree with that completely. And there's so much that goes on from the point in which you're born, from where you are in the world, to the culture, which culture itself is pretty wild because you can just be like back in the 70s or back in the 80s or back in the 90s, and you get this generalized theme like, oh, that's what that was, and like their look or it's just it's almost, is it being guided, and I believe it is a lot of programming. And
Oh yeah,
from what they're telling you, us all on the news, and the vision that we can clearly see at this point, I don't know if anyone doesn't believe that things are being a program from the television telling us all these things and causing this division between each other, as well as the back door taking away rights. Like, one big thing, it's just so. I think the whole Will Smith thing is just another distraction. It's another big distraction. Whether or not that was intentional or not, I can't sit here and know any of that necessarily. But regardless, to blow something that big out of the water, comparatively to what went on the islands,
yeah.
what's going on with Hillary, what's it's
Hunter
really.
Biden, the Hunter Biden thing with the laptop, that
Yes,
first didn't exist, but now does exist.
yeah,
Like,
it
yeah, it's distraction.
it is distraction, and that's and the fact that if you watch something from one news network and then you see something else that being so different, and then you have the internet where you search for your own answers, and that's also hard to be able to decipher through. It's kind of hard to really find out where truth is. And then, yeah, I even think about our textbooks that we're being taught at schools from that level of, was this actually history, or oh, it gets changed down the line because we keep finding out more and more. And so we continually are like in this state of still learning yet saying this is the way it is. And it's really limiting, I feel like, the human potential. And the division definitely is. That's and that's just something to be, the awareness to it, that this is a scrying mirror. And so what
Yeah.
you put into it, and what you watch is definitely going to be magnified, and they're going to want to magnify your emotions because that's what it's all run on. It's run on chewing away your emotions and eating away your energy body and your body within. And you know uh yeah.
Well, and getting you to create the world that they want,
Yeah,
because they implant all these ideas into your mind, through television programs and fiction, and you don't realize that it's all being embedded in there. Consciously, you don't see what they're doing to. Some people can. It's a skill that you can teach yourself.
yeah,
But if you're just the average popcorn watcher, you're sitting back eating your popcorn, drinking a soda, and you get emotionally involved in the story, and there's all these other things that are put in the story to get you to accept something that you normally wouldn't accept. Like, for example, there was just recently there was an executive from Disney that came out, and they admitted that they're putting all this gay stuff in the movies, because nobody could stop them. And Disney's been putting symbolism in their movies for awful long time. I mean, I can still remember the Little Mermaid cover that had like all the penises on the
yeah.
organ pipes or whatever
And
those were.
the priest, when he says now you guys are getting married, he gets an erection. It's
Yeah.
wild. It's really wild.
Yeah, and it's super subtle, and it's been programming children for the last, God knows how long. I don't know if Walt Disney originally sat out to be like, although I've heard some pretty messed up stuff about him. Um, but definitely over the last at least like 30 years or so,
Yeah.
they've definitely been in there, and they've been going after the minds of children, and it's pretty blatant at this point.
Yeah, and there's one thing with people who want to choose to change their body. If you're 18 and over and you can go to war and you can do these other things, then yes, go ahead and make your decision. But as a kid, you are so your mind is so malleable. So if they're getting
Yeah.
programmed and thinking this and that, as well as the water, what type of water are you drinking, what type of foods you putting in your body, because it can alter your mind. I'm
All
not.
the soy that's in everything, and soy is a plant phytoestrogen.
Oh, and the fluoride for making you more docile, and
Yeah,
all the plastics and
yeah.
stuff is. I care. This is my bottle because I have to keep using something that's metal instead of using the plastic stuff over and over. And I remember one time, this is so many years ago, I drank out of a bottle and I could taste all plastic. It was like 7 years old, but you could taste it break down.
Oh yeah,
And seeing what that can do to your body and the way you think and understanding the programming. And, that's where it's, if someone's not aware, and I know people aren't aware of that, people definitely are not aware of those type of situations of the stuff that they're eating and how it is programming them. But they were aware. Would they feel differently about these different things that are going on in our culture? You know?
yeah. Well, and it's hard to say, because the mind and the body are so connected. I mean, if you get into like a metaphysical view, like say, if you read something like the Kabbalion, which is, I think it was written roughly like the start of the 20th century, and it goes into the seven Hermetic principles. I mean, the first Hermetic principle of all is that all is mind,
Yeah.
and that, all is a creation of the great mind. And so, and we are, if you're to say that, you've ever seen, like you've seen like a big billboard that's made up of a lot of really small lights.
Yeah.
There's like a bunch of tiny ones. Well, we would be a little pinpoint of light on the big billboard would be, what you would call God, and we would be like just a little point of light. So if you go from a hermetic or a metaphysical standpoint, the mind creates all of this anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's like, where does the mind and the body, definitely the body's like the interface with this realm.
Yeah.
It's like the computer, but your essence is like the electricity that runs through it. It's what's generated, or not even what's generated, but what comes out of the outlet is the source of what you are, but your hardware, your body, is what interacts with it. And so, but the question kind of is like, it can a mindset overcome the toxins and all this other stuff?
Mm,
Like you see like these Tibetan monks that can meditate in the snow and
yeah.
warm their bodies to a point where they melt the snow. Like they can
Yeah.
literally, like, they can pour cold water on them, and they can make that shit evaporate, and their body temperature doesn't alter at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is an element of mind over matter, but I think that it takes so much, um, just discipline and belief that I think it's kind of hard for the average person. And so,
Yeah.
you know, it everything runs off of belief. How strongly you believe. If
Yeah, your intent and how much time also you'll put into something, because you don't get into anything and master it. And that's been something I've really enjoyed actually about getting into hot yoga, is I know how bad I am at it and how much better I can get at it as I continue moving and going forward with it and all this type of things. And that, I mean, yeah, Definitely, dude. Definitely. When it comes down to, dang, what were you just saying?
About the, well, we were talking about like the toxins and the poisons and
Yeah,
stuff, and I was just like, and it's not to say that they don't affect you, because I think they do affect the hardware, so to speak,
yeah,
because we're, this obviously, like, and I know that a lot of people would debate this, but in my mind, there's no debate that we're not really our bodies. The body's the shell. When you if you ever seen someone, well, I mean, I know you have, if you've ever seen someone that has died, like the body's all like rigor mortis, and like
yeah. There's no
it's like
life. There's no
it's like a
essence.
machine that's broken down, like that,
Yeah,
that's not working. It's all contorted and twisted. So it's the life force that gives you the breath. Even all the Eastern religions, and even the Bible will say that, God breathed the breath of life into man.
yeah,
And so and just, your inhale, your exhale is part of it too. The inhale is the feminine, and the exhale is the masculine, the push, and so but we're a shell that's containing that essence. We're And in that essence is actually the God, or the creator of the universe,
hmm,
that we just don't realize we are the billboard. We're the point of light as well, but we're also the billboard.
yeah. And that's also the thing too. People tapping into knowing that you're connected with everything and all is God, but you also are a part of that, and how you
Even
can
the bad things,
even the
even
bad
even
things.
what
Yeah,
you perceive as bad.
yeah, because you can change the fabric of reality, and sometimes you have to look at your shadows, and instead of disgracing yourself on things, it's better to look at it than hide it underneath anything, because then you're trying to hold it down and you're not allowing it to come about the way it
Right.
needs to manifest. And that's the thing of balance. Like I was I've been listening to this meditation that's like theta bay, theta alpha, and all this stuff, but there's every 15 minutes it says this thing about it's kind of like a gray Jedi and talking about having balance. Just a couple words and then it goes back to the thing. And it really just resonates, holding that balance, and also that balance on the outside and also within from those foods, so you can be able to think better, have more clarity, and honestly unlock that latent potential, like what you're talking about with the monks and all that. uh, I've been doing this Wim Hof breathing for
Yeah.
a while now, and I also did the cold showers every day for a month. And I noticed the focus I have, the anxiety I don't have by the end of the night after a cold shower, because you feel so released, feel so well. And my
Mm.
breathing, I mean, I can feel the energy and the pulsations occur when I'm holding my breath. And
Oh yeah.
it's very intense. And
You get that tingly thing afterwards that lasts for a while, that weird.
yeah, dude. But you
Oh
feel that can. It's almost when I close my eyes and I'm doing it, and I'm like really into it. It feels like a rainbow body around. It really
yeah.
does. There's no other explanation. It reminds me of psychedelic shrooms. Totally does. It's such a mild thing. And now I transitioned into yoga. Now I do Kundalini yoga, so I do the breathing and the movings to try
Yeah.
to enhance those things. Plus, to build endurance, to go sweat my ass off into something and push my body, the willpower. But it's just all these different things that we're doing inside of our lives overlay to have it so at least we know we're in control of our vessel, instead of
Hmm.
the winds of media, the programming pushing our
Yeah.
vessel in different directions. And
Yeah.
how to become more aware, how to help more people see that, because it's not sitting here saying I know all the answers. We're not saying any of that, but we're saying we have an open mind to see that there are other answers. There's mysteries. That's the greatest part, is we don't know everything because there's so many freaking mysteries. But like what we were discussing before we started, like the programming that we're going towards with new technologies.
Yeah.
Now, I see it in two ways, because what I would like to see is people being able to have their own water, have their own resource of water that they can collect it. Everyone to make screw what your yard looks like. Let's all make gardens in our yard, so we all have food and substance. We don't have to be afraid of scarcity. Let's enhance ourselves with making things, easier for like energies for cars, unless they really like hit at people with an incentive. Money's really tight right now, so to make someone transfer a car and do everything off the bat's too much, way too much. Hybridizing and then people that can do stuff, I think that'd be cool. That's totally cool. I personally would do a hybrid car. I would really like to do that because then I'd be saving money on gas anyways. But just it's then even solar power. I think why not why not incentivize it even more to the extreme of why don't we just make everyone like have everyone have it, but not make them pay
Hmm.
for it? No,
Yeah.
like literally, government. You want to
Well,
do something that way?
I mean, the problem with that is that all the alternative energy sources that they've presented to us actually, I mean, if you want to believe in a carbon footprint and all the shit that they tell you about, it's like they create these buzzwords and they just use them all the time. And so we all just accept them and start using the words. And then these things that don't actually exist in reality, but are concepts, get accepted. And so we start using their words like carbon footprint. But to my understanding, like even the solar panels and all the renewables, like they have a higher carbon footprint than traditional energy sources, because you got to manufacture them, you've got to mine the different materials, you've got to use fossil fuels to go get them, and the return that you get is so minuscule compared to the amount of effort that you have to put in to get that. And so they actually become like energy negative. They're not even, you know what I mean? Like they on the surface it looks like, okay, yeah, we're benefiting here, but you don't even break even by the time it's all said and done.
So
So
the
it's,
the payouts really not.
yeah, the payout's not there. You got to have
Wow.
battery, you've got to have batteries. What are
Yeah.
we going to do with all these batteries when the cells go bad? Where are we going to dispose of them? Where are they going to go? Are they just going to go to a landfill somewhere? So there's not really there's not a good answer that I've seen yet that's going to solve these problems, except, I mean, if you want my honest opinion, I think this at some point is just going to crack. It's all going to crumble and we're going to start over and we're going to be,
You don't think we're gonna
no,
be able to move forward? You,
no, I think we've been through this before. No,
wow.
if you look at like the Vedas and all the like
Yeah.
the sacred Hindu texts and stuff, like they talk about Vimana and flying craft and all
Yeah.
this technology and like the War of the Gods where they like like somehow caught the sky on fire, in these wars.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
so
yeah.
it's like, is it? I mean, it could be metaphor, all
No,
right.
I think
It
that
could be,
that
but it could be a history of humanity being told, like in an old oral tradition that eventually like people remembered the stories. I mean, it could be a situation of where they had kids that they just told the story to, and the more there's been studies done on this to show that like the more fanciful that you tell a story, if you tell a story about some big purple elephant or something, but put like a kind of fable in there that has like a relevance to real life, like some kind of like a Aesop's fable kind of situation that has like an actual, like a meaning for life, a lesson, so to speak. The more fanciful that you tell it, the more rememberable it is.
well
There's been studies done on that.
that's true. That's very true. You make something sound shiny and flashy in the life, then yeah. But dude, what I think the Vedas, as well as when there's ancient histories, and different cultures of stuff of the past on like their walls of floods and giants and all that, that it's
Yeah.
stuff that happened pre-flood, and I think we have had many renditions. I don't know if we're on 6 or 7, and I think we really are. But I do feel like we have the potential right now.
Yeah, for sure. I
We
mean,
and it's not now how long all that type of shit. I don't know necessarily, but I it's just crazy because we are right now on that teeter totter, and there's no
yeah.
doubt, there's no joke on that. We're on the teeter totter, and it's like,
I think we always are, though. I think we're
yeah,
always on a
I
teeter-totter.
guess you're right. I guess when are we not on a teeter totter? But more truths have been coming out about stuff. More shows, more things have been exposed, and that's good and bad. Like the whole Walt Disney thing. That's wild. That really is wild, and it actually sucks because I was like, man, I'm looking forward to Obi-Wan, and now I'm seeing this is the situation, and I don't know. Some people are like, don't make things such a big deal, but I'm like, what do you mean? Like, there's just constant programming. Like,
Yeah.
like, what people, they still have stuff on the radio about getting the shot. And then there's also stuff coming out about it not being good. There's a lot of stuff on both sides all the time. And there's so much judgment from one person to the next, one person to
Yeah.
the next. And that,
Well,
it's just another way. It's just another way.
and that, I mean, that's another kind of wrinkle to this too, because as you believe, so it is done unto you, right? As the Bible says. So
Yeah.
as you believe, it's done unto you. And so I can only relate to this universe, this reality from my own personal experience. And so, when I see the shots and I see these different things, I see like this is something to avoid. This is something that's not going to benefit me. This is something that's going to harm me. And so somebody else though, they see that as something that's going to help them. And I wonder like are their results going to vary? Like if I went and got the shot, would I just get sick immediately because I believe that I would?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And it's like you got to ask these questions. Like we get so trained into the for or against. I mean, I've seen the research to say that the shots are, hurting people. Like you look at the VAERS report and you look at all these people that you see that are getting either killed or are getting like permanently disfigured or have conditions. I mean, it's insane how many people it's harming, at least from my perspective,
Yeah.
from what I've researched. But is there another approach to it? Is there an approach of being like a neutral observer in a way and just observing it all, not really passing a judgment per se? I mean, you can say, well, I think I'm going to avoid that thing because I think that thing's probably harmful. But aside from that, not putting all your energy into the pendulum of like the for and the against, like there's a Russian author, and I think he may be like a quantum physicist or something, and his name's Vadim Zeland, and he's got this book, several books, and they're called like reality transurfing, or at least that's the concept.
Hmm.
And I'm not really huge into it, but he talks about how you can change your reality by your perception and your awareness and being able to imagine the reality that you want.
Yeah.
And he talks about these things called energy pendulums and how you get swung back and forth on these arguments of things. And isn't that exactly what the media wants to do to you? They want to get you going back and forth, teetering and tottering on like for or against. They always want you to take a side. They never want you to like look at it from an observer's perspective that's like, well, I see the people over here on the left and I think they're fucking crazy, and I see the people on the right and I think they're fucking crazy too.
Yeah.
And here I am in the middle, like observing all that insanity. And so I think there's something to that also. Just yeah, avoiding the things that you think are going to be harmful, and you're never going to get through life without passing some kind of judgment. I mean,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
built into us. I mean, from a transcendental standpoint, maybe if you meditate or something, you can get to your higher center or your higher self and to your center, and kind of see how all that stuff is a misnomer, and you can work on it. But I don't think that you're ever going to get to a point in your life where you can totally do away with it. That's kind of
Yeah.
the paradox of existence, though. You know, you're existing in the you're not necessarily of this world, the real essence of what you are, but at the same time, like I have to eat. If I don't eat, then I'm not going to feel right, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to be able to do anything, or you know what I mean.
We
So
gotta
it's like,
poop, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
there's like this paradoxical thing.
It is. It really is. And that's where the meditation and like the eating and my routines of like what do I really enjoy in my life, because like there's people I know that look so much older than what they should, and they get gray hairs and they're stressed out about things that they shouldn't really be stressed about, that are just
Hmm.
like once again programmed. And there's people who are really old who look really young and they're just really happy and go lucky, and it's like there's that way too. Like, how are you going into your life? Are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you being yourself, or are you inside of this shell and not, being your authentic self? And that's and one thing I see with the world that I do like is people are doing that. Whether it's something I like or not, that's just another story. But people are at least doing it, so we're getting the conversations and things stirred up, and the truths are coming out. And I'd rather be head on with things, because something in the back has been going on for way too long. And so, if there's one thing with the culture I do like, is that I do like with the show I'm making. I'm not gonna get too much involved with explaining too much like right here on this, because I want it to be a mystery. But like, it's more about inspiration for the kids. At the end of the day, if kids are being programmed the wrong things and to go down the wrong paths. Like, I remember as a kid, and I love I love my grandmas, I love my parents, but lots of the food was not healthy that I was eating growing up. I see, like, really not healthy, just like easy fast food. And I got really fat, and I still got some of the fat. I'm still trying to burn off, and I from that I was programmed to be a certain way. I'm happy I went through my Christianity phase where I was hardcore Catholic and even thought about priesthood just for a little bit, and then to go turn all the way to Luciferianism, and now kind of come to alchemy and make that that balance. It's all about balance, and to have these journeys. But it's like, man, oh man, how much of everything is a program versus what your real reality is, and to sit with and giving yourself time to be able to make that happen. And I know it would be difficult. I know, for even for you, man, like, you have a family, you have kids, you have that, and just that,
Hmm.
like, I have some friends that have that, and I'm like, man, oh man, like, that in and of itself is almost a whole main course right here, man. Like, you might be able to fit like maybe a dessert, maybe a little coffee, you know what I'm saying? But like, that's a big thing. And so I know for me to be able to tell people, yeah, I spend this much time, or be able to do stuff, I know I have more time, but still giving yourself 20 minutes at least beginning your day, setting an intent for your day, so you manifest what you want throughout your day. Because otherwise, once again, we're back to, you're just following the programming. And then when you go to sleep at night, were you thinking
That's
about, I wish I would have said this to that person, oh, I should have did this? Like, act, just do it. Who cares? Like, I mean, obviously don't be an asshole, but
well, the thing is as you said, like when you start your day, you should take that time, just to kind of get your perspective right and kind of envision the day that you'd like. And before you go to bed too, it's probably actually more important because um, when you go to sleep, that's when your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, they merge together, and it'd be like in the Bible where it says, um, something like deep in the middle of night when men fall under slumber, God sealeth their instructions, to basically say like that's when you commune with your higher self as in your dreams, because all your fantasies, all your fears, all your regrets, all these things, that's when they come out. And your conscious mind, if you can remember, gets a glimpse of that. So it's very important, though, before you go to sleep every night to take 5, 10 minutes or so and imagine the things that you want. If you want a new house, imagine that. Imagine it in full detail. Feel what you would feel if you had it, because your subconscious reacts to emotions and feelings. We talked earlier about programming in Disney and how they implant different ideas into your mind, that intellectually you would reject, but they bypass your conscious mind, and they go into your subconscious mind, and you actually go about in your life, and we go about collectively. And this is why it's so important for them to propagandize us all, because you collectively start to build that reality that you saw, that you identified with emotionally. And so rather than letting them program you, letting your parents program you, letting society program you, you should be the arbiter of your own programming.
Hmm.
And it's a skill that you have to learn and that you have to be really vigilant about. So it's definitely important before you go to sleep to say your affirmations, but not just say them, not
Yeah.
vain repetition as the Bible would call it,
Yeah.
but you want to actually feel it. Every time that you say it, you say, "I am successful. I am successful." My life is
Hmm.
continuing to get better day by
Intent.
day. And just and don't give a shit what anybody else says to you. You know that who
Yeah.
gives a shit what they say? Like, if all these really successful people had listened to the first few people that they told about their idea, they would have never achieved anything.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And you don't know their intent.
that's
There's
right,
people's intent that they could just want you to be failing, and they're not even honest with you with stuff. And that's
because
also,
yeah, because they're not doing anything with their life.
yeah, exactly. And that's also a thing where it's like you have to make sure the people who are around you are the right people, the ones that want to watch you succeed, the ones that will tell you if you're not doing things right, and trying to sharpen you as an individual, not a yes man. And that's a part of, I guarantee fame, if you just get it before you know yourself, why people have such burnout, like what things go wrong is because then they're told that they're supposed to do this, they're just following instructions instead of standing where they know or who they are, or not just letting shit get crazy, man, just unleashing the freaking, or getting paid to be a certain way and act a certain way, or otherwise you're going to be blackmailed and shown that you're not a good person. And they have that stuff going on in the music industry, blackmail, and there's just constant things that are going on in manipulation. And it's like, oh, you want to be a star, but you don't realize all these extra things on it. And I'm not saying that you have to go down that path. There's people who are very successful who aren't on that path, who won't get, they speak their truth. Like
Hmm.
Joe Rogan, for instance. Like, he is a great example of someone, or Randall Carlson, or, you Graham Hancock. I love him, but
I love Graham Hancock. Yeah, he talks a lot about the primacy of consciousness. I like that.
yeah, that in ancient history with things. I'm just so fascinated with all the interconnections of ancient
Hmm.
culture. Like, that has always just been so fascinating to me, and how limitless we really are within, and how we're being programmed, and people aren't be able to see that beauty of themselves within. Because I think if everyone was like on that, then are you kidding me? We would, because we're already in the golden age. We have the knowledge. It's just using it and not being distracted. And unfortunately, distraction's the case right now. And thank God we have other separate medias coming out. There's actually open conversation. There's like Rumble and other ways about you can go and get your stuff out. I mean, I still post myself where I do, and it's not really a big deal, but maybe someone would take offense if I had a little bit more bigger audience, maybe they would be like, oh, that this guy's this, that, or the other. But once again, it's like, why do you think that? Why do you think that? Because you're told? Because you're told, oh,
Yeah.
he does this? Like, I used to really care about whether or not people knew I did magic because I thought I'd be judged. I could give a fucking rat's ass, dude. Like, I am magic. My life is spiritual. I love it. I love walking it. I love waking up every day. I love that connection to the supreme consciousness and being able to see the synchronicities and the signs and really be appreciative. It's not just every day you get things rolled out in front of you. You know, there are it's a growing and put going forward and like really, are you going to survive that fire under you, or are you going to be able to reshape and be able to take on that and then have that reward from that transformation? Like that really is the way it's been in my life. I know it's been like that for you, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. I feel like, but changing the culture is the way to go. I mean, we could just stop being so wasteful. We could just find better ways of how we do things. And you from what you said about the technologies, I'm going to look into that because I that's crazy to me. Actually, that's really crazy. I'm like, wow. Like even my perception is being changed right now. I'm just like, wow. But you know, I still think that if we did everything, you don't jump away from fossil fuels, and if we could do something that was easier, like make a car could run off of water, like why
Well,
don't?
yeah.
What,
Stan, did you ever hear of Stan Meyer?
I think I did, and he got killed a couple days before he got the patent. Correct?
Something like that. He met with some European investors. He was from Ohio, and he had this car that supposedly ran off of water. And I mean, I'm not very sciencey with that kind of stuff, but he was out in the parking lot after he had, I think, drank something or ate something, and he was in the parking lot. His last words were, "I've been poisoned." And the coroner though ruled it like a brain aneurysm or something. And then after a few months, like they just completely closed the case on it, so that there was no further investigation, and that was that. And I've read articles that debunk it and say that it's not so, that he was murdered. Oh, he died of a brain aneurysm because that's what the coroner put. Like, if we don't think that there's corruption in the world, I don't know what to tell somebody. But um, if it is so, though, that he did come up with that technology, and he was murdered for it, then it shows that there's suppression. And I was just talking to my oldest son today. We were what let's see, what did we start with? We started with I was telling him about this idea called the mud flood. There's this empire that was called Tartaria, and I don't know a lot about it. I kind of just sort of researched it a little bit, and it was like this worldwide culture that existed from, I don't know what year to exactly what year, but I've heard that it was like worldwide. That's why you see like the same architecture all over the world, because it was this
mm,
common culture. As we're talking about culture,
yeah.
and this really high kind of like a like Renaissance type of culture. That had this incredible architecture and these incredible ideas and thoughts and art, and just like humanity's the highest of the highest order,
Hmm.
and how they're like snuffed out at like the turn of the 20th century or sometime in the 18th century. And like you had all these different orphans that showed up, just like across the world and across the United States even. They had them in train cars, like hundreds of thousands of all these orphans
Wow.
that just came from somewhere. And you see in like Europe and places, and like in Salt Lake City, where you have like these buildings that are built, and they have like windows that are like halfway cut off, like at ground level, like as if there was another floor beneath it that was engulfed, by they call it like the mud flood. It was like some kind of like landslide. But anyway,
What?
I kind of got off on a tangent there, but I was talking to my son about technology and about the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago and how they had, and we watched part of a documentary that was narrated by Gene Wilder,
Oh,
and
you
they were
cool.
talking about these giant 150-foot like water fountains that were colored like red and blue. You know what I mean? Like that they had at the World's Fair, and it lasted for 6 months, and it was just this incredible architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly it was all facade; it wasn't actually like marble. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Supposedly like all these like really awesome architectural structures were like they caught on fire. Like all these cities across the world had these amazing architectural feats, and fire destroyed this, earthquake destroyed that, which I mean it's entirely possible, don't get me wrong, but
True, but Alexand the Great, Library of Alexandria and all the other places across
yeah,
the world have been destroyed, and knowledge has been
yeah,
quite questionably forgotten, and the Vatican doesn't questionably have things within there.
miles, like 12 miles worth of library or something under the Vatican. It's insane.
Oh my gosh, it's there's so many secrets beyond that are definitely Balkan door and government and religion. Like it, I didn't
Yeah,
really.
they work
They work
hand in
together
glove.
and they act
Yeah,
like they don't, but it's all the program. It's all part of the programming. If you want to really be free, you got to understand that
yeah,
right there is number one. So getting rid of that, cool. Number two, then understand families and how they are, how you were raised, your family was raised, their parents, how that
yeah,
like affects them, and that all comes on down to the individual. But to be able to step outside of that, sometimes I feel like when you talk to people who have looked outside of that, it's because they've had to deal with something tragic in their life. And I don't know if that's for everyone or if there's some people that are naturally like that. But I have noticed that, and I kind of makes sense because then you really have to like look up at the stars and actually ask deeper questions. Other than
yeah,
oh no, someone took my parking place. Like in all reality, we how blessed we are here in America right now with everything. As much as there's a lot of manipulation and there's other things going on, we're at least having choice and able to stand up and fight. And it is cool seeing what went on in Canada. I'm completely happy that they took a stand for that. And
yeah.
Australia and all these places around the world are taking
New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah, like that's on the authenticity of standing up for what people believe in is to the all-time high. So I feel like
Yeah,
right now it's like the battle of intent on the shaping of our reality coming forth here, and that's like why we're on this tipping thing, which we always are. But like Cyberpunk, that game, which I thought was phenomenal game, but that game there's it's like people are being programmed that that's gonna be okay if you put your essence within a microchip, and the more connection to that future technology. Now, obviously, I would love to be able to keep my body alive and for a lot longer and enjoy myself for a great living life, but not forever to put it on a hard drive. And what
yeah,
we were also mentioning earlier is that like that movie where what happens if your heart was about to go out and they give you a transfer, but
yeah. Repo Man came
re-
out in 2010. Yeah,
yeah, so there's so many things that are possibilities for the future, and you know, I just I wouldn't want to have some technological thing put in me in the neuro plant, but then they might want to make you have to do it and able to interface with the technology and the reality they want.
yeah,
But then again, if you're aware of that programming as a united force, you can stand against it. So it's intent versus the world, and it's conversations like this. It's conversations that many people are having. And
yeah.
that's why I believe that the golden age is here. We're definitely upon it. But, I'm not too sure it's going to go on the next election. What's going on right now, what's going on with our policies from now they say so what's the thing with the cannabis that they're talking about? Like,
Yeah. Um, so I didn't read the legislation, but whatever the legislation is, it went to the House a couple of days ago and it passed. It was like it was like pretty much like totally a partisan vote. So obviously there's more Democrats in the House. So it did pass. It's going to go to the Senate, which I think there's a couple more Republicans there. So I don't exactly know whether it's going to even pass just because like, the Republicans for all their freedom loving, which and I'm not saying that I like Democrats. I mean, fuck them both as far as I'm concerned. I'm all about individual rights and if I'm not hurting anybody, so what if I'm smoking a joint? What's it to you?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
are you gonna come in my house and tell me when I can take a shit and what I should be eating and what right do you have to tell me?
Yeah,
If I'm not hurting anybody else.
libertarian.
But yeah, and I mean I even hate that. I hate that label because it's been so sullied by
That's true.
you know, dumbass libertarians that make everybody else look bad. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just an
facts.
individual.
That's facts.
I'm not a I'm not anything.
You're not a
I'm just
label. And that's
I'm more than a label. Like if somebody sat down and talked to me, they'd be like, "Well, you're very opinionated." And I'd say, "Yeah, I don't fall into any group. I don't need to. Like
yeah, that's a
I'll
free
fall into the
mind.
group. Yeah, I mean, I'll fall into the group of like, yeah, I'm humanity and I care about humanity in the future, but yeah, I'm not trying to fall into a group, but like I said, for the Republicans who are like so freedom loving, they're against cannabis and they're against letting people decide for themselves whether they should use cannabis and grow cannabis because it's a fucking plant. I mean, and if it's got seeds, right, then it's intended by the creator to be planted and grown.
Yeah.
Because if it weren't, like check this out. So like peppermint, you can get peppermint seeds, but peppermint is like sterile in and of itself. It can't breed with itself because it's a hybrid of two types of mints.
Oh wow.
So you can get peppermint seed from these two types of mints being crossed, but peppermint itself can never propagate itself. So, but I know it's kind of a tangent,
That's awesome. No, that's awesome.
um, but with regard to cannabis, like you can pollinate it, you can make seed, and you can grow those seed. And the Bible says, that God gave you seed bearing fruits so that you could grow them. And so the creator has determined that we can do this. People say, well, how do you know the creator did that? Well, you can do it, right? It exists. So therefore, the creator has
Amen.
allotted for you to do that. And so, for such God fearing Christians as they are, and for such freedom lovers, for them to try to restrict people's right to do that, I think is bullshit.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the aisle, you have the Democrats who are all about people getting high, but they want to control it. They want to make sure that they can tax the fuck out of it. And they want to make sure that, big business can go in there and thrive and government gets, the axles of government get well greased too. They want you to pay a shitload of money for it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I mean? So like both
Yeah.
sides are giving you a shitty deal. So
Oh, 100%. And that's where they want to be at. They want to be able to have this shit and this shit so they can keep you always in that centerpiece, cross the links of both shits at once. Just
yeah,
another way of being able to yank both your chains as well as yank
yeah,
people
that's right.
towards each other. And I now that you said what you said, yeah, you are right that libertarian name has a tarnish to it because why would we want to put labels on everything anymore?
Yeah,
People all want to have their freaking label. Why can't we just all be nice to each other and not even have to say a label? Like literally, we're just
yeah.
human. Like, what are you? I'm a human.
Oh, because when you declare yourself to be something, you say I am this, then you've like not only have you pigeonholed yourself, with regard to the conversation, and then there's all this like, oh well, you're that, so and I might have some kind of some kind of like a criticism or some kind of a dislike for that particular group. You know, if you say, well, I'm a Republican, then and somebody who's a Democrat is going to be like, well, I'm not going to listen to anything you say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh,
But
100%.
you know, and so you have that dynamic where it's going to just create hostility sometimes between people. And you know, just because you're a Republican doesn't mean that you you're that particular way that they think that you are, but it's just, you know, it's kind of a label. And so that's one side of it. And then the other side obviously is like, if you declare yourself to be something like the I am, you know, I am is God speaking, the awareness inside of you.
Yeah.
You've kind of pigeonholed yourself in your
Mm-hmm.
own mind as well, in your own experience. And so you're kind of like limiting yourself. You're putting yourself like I heard Steve Harvey. You know who Steve Harvey is, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
guy. He's I mean he's a wise man, and he was talking about a quote from him where he was talking about how you can take an oak seed and you can plant that oak seed in a small pot, and that small pot, even or that oak seed, though it will grow up to be an oak, just like an oak that grows in nature, it'll never grow up to be as mighty and strong as the one that grows up outside of that pot. So if you put yourself in that pot, in that limitation,
Mm.
you'll never grow as big and strong and prominent as you could without it.
Yeah,
So
or
that's
yeah, like even being a bug in a container that can
yeah,
jump
like the
really high.
fleas. Yeah,
Yeah, the fleas,
fleas.
that one.
Yeah,
Yes, that's the one I heard. And I was like, you
yeah. Even if
know,
it's not true, it's true. It's a truism.
yeah, it's a metaphor, and lots of things are given to us as metaphors and parables because to have a higher understanding of it, that's the only way it can come across for
Yeah,
you to diagnose and consciously, take it in.
yeah. I can't explain that truth to you in just a simple way to say like, well, you know, Leighton, if you believe yourself to be limited, then you're going to be limited. Like, I mean, it's got. I mean, you could maybe get something from that, I guess. But if you say it in a story of like with the oak trees or with the
Yeah.
leaves, like it creates this narrative and a picture in your mind, and so
Mm.
the
It's a
it's like
program. It
it is.
is.
It's a program. Like the two hemispheres of your brain work on it. Your right
Yeah.
brain fucking generates the image of it, and your left brain like picks it apart from a logical standpoint. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So it's like it kind of like fuses the two, and you get this. You know, it's kind of like a band like Tool, where they make a song like Lateralis, where it's based on the Fibonacci series,
Oh
and
wow.
even the musical rhythm is based on it, as well as the syllables for the words that he uses, and then the words are like, you know, talking about like the Hopi. He's getting into like the Hopi creation story of like black and white are all I see in my infancy, red and yellow that came to be, reaching out to me lets me see. You know what I mean? And so it's like this merging of the hemispheres to
Wow.
to impart like this profound truth and the way that it makes you feel, you know, when you understand it intellectually and then also feel the music, you know. So it's kind of that concept, you know, like really good art and storytelling and metaphors can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like that's our higher nature, I feel like.
That's the picture's worth a thousand words,
Yeah,
right
exactly.
then and there. You can't tell everyone a whole entire transformation thing. It's the story, it's the parable. And that's what teachers do. And then it can become to the point where they people just take vows of silence because they can't even start to explain
Yeah.
the things. And I think that people can get to a state. And I've heard about this. I don't know anyone personally that's done this, but people hitting that state of pure consciousness that they can just lead, that they can just choose when they die. They just really
Yeah.
have that choice in their hand. And I don't know if that's from pushing your body in the way, like with the cold showers, this type of breathing, or what type of practices there are, but there's so many, and just like qigong and all these things that can just better our lives and really just make our body, the machine, work more efficiently for our soul to be able to shine through it. So then actually we can be making the moves, and once again we won't be programmed. So it's
Yeah, I
a
mean, that's what it's all about.
it is. It's about pulling the plugs from that stuff. And I know it's coming up to about 11. We've been on for an hour. This has been awesome. I know I have to get to sleep for rehearsal tomorrow, but
Sure.
yeah, I wanted to know if you had anything that you'd want them to follow, or any last words, or just anything like that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about technology earlier, and I kind of went off on a tangent, and then we went off on a tangent together.
It's great.
And we were talking about, the technology and the fact that, we're looking for means, like alternative means to solve like the energy crisis and all these things. And I got into like the Stan Meyer thing and the World's Fair and all that. And what I was kind of trying to get at was the fact that, we're using kind of antiquated technologies now, like the gasoline and the diesel engine. They're invented a long time ago. The light bulb was invented a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I can't, for the life of me, believe that we're at the pinnacle of what technology should have been, had we stayed on that trajectory. I feel like, all the distractions of World War One and Spanish flu and World War Two and all these things that happened, I feel like those were all, distractions that took us away from trying to solve these issues.
Yes.
And people like Tesla, where he wasn't even operating from a Hertzian point of view of electricity. We use the Hertz system because it's what somebody came up with, but he could not stand the Hertzian system. Like he had some other method or some other explanation that he was operating off of. And so you get people like Tesla that want to give that away to the world, for basically free. And because you can't meter it or you can't profit off of it, you have people like JP Morgan that aren't interested.
Yeah.
And so I think that we've been suppressed. If I was going to put it simply, I would say that we've been suppressed, and that's why we're not where we want to be.
Yeah.
So going forward, though, I think that the solution that we should be looking for is to try to question, who are we, where are we going, what's important, and how do we want to move forward as spiritual beings. Like, obviously we can't continue going on destroying the earth, and COVID has been huge for that, because you see all these fucking masks around that people throw everywhere, which is a
Yeah.
huge problem with the environment. And if this COVID shit was legit and as scary as everybody says, I mean, you're throwing all these fucking masks away on the ground, like just tossing them, or you're just like throwing them away and like just regular trash bins, not
Yeah.
biohazard bins and shit. So like we've created all these extra problems for the environment with this bullshit. So it tells you that the people that are behind COVID don't give a fuck about the environment, because if they did, obviously they wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
Yeah. And
And
making a mess. Exactly, making a mess.
yeah, making a mess, making a bigger problem that they can then blame on us. So I would say that we need to just be solution oriented. I was like on a forum earlier talking about how, we should be like, for example, with disposable plastic products like containers for food and water. Why aren't we growing hemp and making hemp plastic that biodegrades after like, I think it's something like maybe 8 or 10 weeks or something. Like it'll start to biodegrade. We could compost it. You could literally have like composting bins, and you could compost the plastic. I mean, it'd have to be massive, don't get me wrong, and you'd have to use like a bulldozer or something to do it. But you could literally compost all that stuff rather
Yeah.
than have to fill up landfills. Or with regard to like paper, you could grow hemp and get the paper from the hemp, or even like fuels and all these things, or
Yeah.
just with our farming practices, we could be planting cover crops, in the winter, that keep the soil from eroding, that help to, like keep the moisture in the earth so that the
Yeah.
moisture doesn't go out, and then also preserve like the fungal life and the biodiversity of the soil, so that you don't necessarily, and also they're nitrogen fixing, so they pull nitrogen, which is the most
Yeah, that's
um,
the what plants
which
and soil needs the most.
yes, yeah, nitrogen is the most plentiful gas in the air. So you have these plants that can literally, like clover and things, that can pull the nitrogen from the air, and then when you go in and you chop the plants up before you plant your summer crop, like that will biodegrade into the earth, and you have this abundant source of nitrogen right there, that it basically, it didn't cost you much of anything to get. You didn't have to like use fossil fuels. You didn't have to, go to Russia, because like Russia like is one of the biggest exporters of
Yeah.
fertilizer in the world. So you get like all these people that are doomsayers that are saying like, oh well, if Russia's not exporting this fertilizer, we're going to have a food shortage, because we need the fertilizer. Well, god damn it, if we were farming the way we should be farming, we wouldn't need that shit, and we could be self-sustaining. And
Yeah.
so that's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on that concept. Like for example, in my house, I've got a worm bin. So I bought some worms off of a guy, and I started with a few worms and like maybe a gallon of, worm castings that I got from him. And I had to shred up a bunch of cardboard and stuff like that and put it in a tote. And now I've got a fucking worm bin.
Oh
Little
wow.
things that you can do, and so when I get like Amazon packages, I hold on to the cardboard, and then I soak them in water and tear off pieces and feed them to my worms as bedding. And then, food scraps and stuff like that go in there. And that's all that stuff is gonna, I'm gonna make worm tea out of the castings, and I'm gonna spray my garden with it. And, little things that you can do for yourself that can lessen the impact on the environment.
And
And
help
it's
the environment.
and yeah, and help the environment. And you're doing a service for the earth, and also, your food is going to taste better. It's going to be more healthy because you're not using a bunch of pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers and stuff. Like there's, a healthy plant is not going to get attacked by pests as much as like an unhealthy.
Yeah,
The healthier
exactly.
the plant, the more able it is to withstand.
And to make good seeds. Hello? Um it might have froze. It's a possibility on a froze. Oh no. Um we'll see if he comes back here in a couple seconds. We'll give it a few seconds. Well, that was that was an incredible conversation. And I really appreciate you coming on, Wolf. The wolf is not in. All right, everyone. Well, he might come back. He might come back. Internet went weird for him. Geez, you talk about deep things. Um,
Hey, sorry about that.
no, it's all good. It's all good. I didn't want to end it just at that second.
Yeah, my internet went weird. It like logged me out, and then my VPN wouldn't connect.
Well,
So
that's we talking about pretty deep stuff. Uh, crazy levels of things, the
Yeah.
next level of stuff. But yeah, we can go ahead and call it. I just wanted to be able to end this on a
Yeah.
pop up, and thank you so much, Wolf, for coming on and just us being able to kind of howl out some truth. And we'll definitely get you back on again. I mean, this is always fun, and yeah, we'll get it a little bit. I have myself up earlier and not have to go wake up in the morning, so I can be on a little bit longer.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I understand everybody's got things to do, and I mean, I'm grateful for the time that we have.
Yeah, me too, brother. Seriously, thank you again, man. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon, then, dude.
All right, sounds good.